Nissan, seriously, don't this one up too. You've been doing a lot of things wrong recently, and this is at a time when manufacturers' sales numbers are at near record levels. And Nissan, with its brand identity crisis, has seen a 10% slump in sales. And part of it must be chalked up to the Halo car, the R35 GTR, which yes, was a force to be reckoned with back in 2009, but now it's just an aging dinosaur. And it was ready for a refresh like years ago. And then there's their tried and true sports car, the 370Z. And that thing is in need of a dire makeover as well. And guess what? They're giving us exactly what we've been asking for, because that Fairlady 400Z is a glimmer of hope that we thought that they'd never build. But come a little closer. They are. And we're gonna dig into exactly why Nissan finally did something right with the new 400Z. And if you're new here, my name is Brad Danger. This is Ideal. Please hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, because I'm ready. Are you? Let's go. Is it just me, or does it feel like most manufacturers have completely forgotten about us enthusiasts? Yeah, cars are much faster. Sometimes they're too fast. And yes, cars have become way more high-tech. And no, don't even get me started on battery-operated cars that drive themselves. And to a good old enthusiast like me, the one thing that trumps horsepower figures, G's it can pull, and how much artificial exhaust sound can be pumped into the cabin is the pure driving experience. I mean, all that really matters for sports cars on the road is miles per gallon. And that's exactly the pedestal that Nissan has stood on for decades with the Fairlady Z. Let's go back to 1970, when the first Nissan Fairlady 240Z hit the US shores with the 2.4 liter inline six. Yes, I agree. It wasn't a speed demon, but it wasn't meant to be either. It was a looker that embraced the analog driving experience enthusiasts live for. And that successful recipe continued with the wildly popular 280ZX. And this sleek steed was Motor Trend's import car of the year in 1979. And they just kept throwing the heat, especially with the fully redesigned Z31 300ZX introduced in 1984.
300ZX, the lineage of a true legend.
And then who can forget the instant classic Z32 300ZX, which is probably the most underrated JDM car of the 90s. And then we got a much more contemporary flavor of Z with the Nissan 350Z, which is definitely a favorite among drifters. And the current iteration is the 370Z, which has stunning good looks and a chassis to back it up. And if you've never thought about buying one, I bet you will after watching this Ideal vid. It definitely changed my mind. And the reason that each generation of Z was so successful is that it stayed true to its roots. And that's mostly because it was a simple recipe for success. You got a confidence-inspiring front-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car, and it could always be outfitted with a manual transmission. And Nissan is not messing around with the ancient 370Z replacement, not at all, because the new kid in town, the 400Z, codename Z35, will have a revvy twin-turbo V6 pumping out up to 400 horsepower. And of course, it'll have an updated roofline with a few retro touches here and there, and finally, it's gonna get a modern makeover in the interior. Plus, I can't believe I get to say this, it's gonna have a slick shift-in manual transmission. And if you wanna save the manuals, go buy our best-selling tee. Because as we all know, the manual trannies are dying. And let me explain. By now, you guys all know about that C8 Corvette and how this thing is a supercar killer on a budget. But do you know what? I hate the C8 Corvette. And it's not because the rear quarter panel looks weird, which they really do. Nor is it the fact that it's continuing to push the boundaries of what the definition of a sports car is. Wait, that's not something to hate. Anyways, but what I don't like is that the GM engineers, they forgot about enthusiasts like you and me. They forgot to put in the fun pedal. And that fun pedal is one of the main reasons going to Cars and Coffee on a Saturday is so memorable. Because with flappy paddles, you feel like you're just driving your iPhone. And if the C8 Corvette had a manual, it would feel like you were texting with T9 Word on your Razr flip phone, which most of you are probably too young to even know what that is. But essentially, texting used to be a somewhat analog and rewarding experience with every single text message that you sent. And I bet you guys also remember how hyped the Mark V Supra was. And you can't tell me that at least most of you guys were bummed out when you found out that it wasn't coming with a manual transmission. Yeah, this BMW and Toyota's clothing wasn't gonna let you shift your own gears, and kind of felt like a letdown, especially when the Mark IV had that GetReg V160 6-speed manual that was so much better than the Auto Tragic. It wasn't even comparable. And guys, I could go on and on and on about our favorite sports cars and super duper cars that will or already have killed off the manual transmission. NSX, R8, Ford GT, Alpha 4C. Sorry. Unfortunately, it makes sense that every manufacturer at some point or another is going to give the third pedal an axe. In the auto world, just like business, if you're not evolving, you're dying. And just like dinosaurs, the manual transmission will go extinct. But Nissan, a car company down in the dumps, is doing one thing right by listening to our enthusiast battle cry. See, the 400Z is going to be a heavily reworked 370Z, which you know is a good looking front engine, rear wheel drive drift missile with a fun loving disposition. And currently the Z chassis is offered in a manual transmission. So it would make sense that the twin turbski 3-liter V6 with 400 horses in the 400Z would have the option to row your own gears as well. I think my fantasy just came true because I just about blew my top when I saw one specific clip in Nissan's latest teaser. Yep, you thinking what I'm thinking? That hand just went on a manual shifter. Nissan hasn't given up on us or the manual. So it's so refreshing that they've listened to us enthusiasts at a time when it feels like manufacturers have just been kind of giving us the middle finger. And this new 400Z, I think, is gonna be epic. I think I can speak on behalf of most enthusiasts that we're all pretty excited. And although it's gonna be heavily reworked, I bet it's pretty much gonna be the same car. Because think of the evolution of the Veteran 350 to the 370Z. It was an evolutionary, not revolutionary change, and I bet the 400Z will follow in that exact tradition. And let me be the first to say that that isn't a bad thing, because Porsche has been doing the exact same thing with the 911 chassis for the last 50 plus years. And I think it's worked out pretty well for them. I mean, at some point you realize that you can't rework the chassis for massive gains. And since the 370Z is already such a fun and capable car already, it makes sense that Nissan would just sprinkle some incremental improvements on the 400. You're gonna get some new lights, some wheels, a slightly more contemporary exterior, and of course, an uptick in horsepower. And the reason I think we should all be extremely excited and interested in the new Z is that if they keep the same platform, the aftermarket opportunities right from the get-go are pretty much endless. Think about this for a second. We all know that the 370Z takes mods extremely well. And if a large portion of those performance bits will just bolt onto the 400Z, it's gonna be a tuner hero's dream car right out of the gate. And the cherry on top, of course, is the manual 6-speed transmission. So Nissan, the ball is in your court. And we all know that you've had a pretty rough go at it lately. And yes, you're building a quote unquote new car on the FM platform, which, believe it or not, dates back to the 2001 model year Skyline. So yeah, they're building on some pretty old technology. But hey, you can teach an old dog new tricks, right? And I think that we as auto enthusiasts are cautiously optimistic you might actually do something right for the first time in quite a while. So again, don't f this up because you got a good thing cooking. And down below, I wanna know which generation of Fairlady Z is your favorite. And again, if you're new here, my name is Brad Danger. This is Ideal. Hit that sub button and turn on the notifications. Also, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, check out some of our other Ideal content, and as always, keep living the ideal lifestyle.